Alrighty, we are live. Welcome to the Unwrapped FIFA World Cup 2022 analysis. As we are upon us, the World Cup officially begins in 4 days. I am your host, as always, Matt Skura, and I got a great co-host to my right, Mr. Callum. Callum, how are we doing this fine Wednesday, November 16th, 2022?
Yeah, all good, Matt. Yeah, excited to be here. We were talking before we went live here. It feels very weird that we are approaching a World Cup in the middle of November. Never done before and may not happen ever again, considering controversies, of which there are many that have gone with this World Cup. But yeah, always going to get excited for a World Cup. It's something that's easy to get into for anyone, regardless of where you're from around the world. And I'm sure there'll be a great tournament once we get going.
Absolutely. It's definitely going to be a great tournament to get into. Callum, where can the people find all the great stuff that you do?
I'm at Callum JD Squires on Twitter and Instagram. You can see it there on the screen just below me as well. Variety of I have a soccer podcast, Desert Island Goals, for anyone who's interested in that, and a variety of other things that are happening at all times. But it's and whether it's NFL, NBA, soccer, all of the things. Social media will be there.
Absolutely. And then for myself, my Twitter handle is down below at Matt_Skura. You can check out all my stuff there. Also, my Instagram at Matt_Skura21. If you check that Instagram out in the link tree in my bio, it gives you access to my sports podcast. I'm our great friend Caleb Conant do called MCS Real Sports Podcast. We talk all things NBA and NFL related. You name it, it's available everywhere. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, you name it, it's there everywhere. And before we get into the group stages, let's start off by paying the bills. Down on the ticker below, you can see where you could buy our very own merch under the teesprings.com/stores/unwrapped. If you ever want to join our Patreon program, you can see it along the bottom of the ticker there. And if you're into gambling, like most people are, hit up mybookie.ag, use promo code USN100 to where you can double your first deposit. And, if your back is hurting, whether you're carrying your team, whether it's fantasy football related or life related, use code RXM-USN to save 10% off your order. You could also see on the ticker down below where you could get all of your options there. With that being said, let's move on to the group stages. And as you can see on the screen here, there are 8 groups A through H. And for those of you guys who do not know, in the FIFA World Cup, from November 20th to December 2nd, each of these groups will play each other in their own groups. Group A will play Group A, Group B will play Group B, so on and so forth. Whatever top 2 teams are in each group will move on to what is called the round of 16, starting either on December 2nd or December 3rd. And that is where it is single elimination. So from the 20th to December 2nd, whether your team wins or loses, you live another day, but they base it off of a point total, which if you want, Callum, you could get into it later on. But basically, from all these groups here, the top 2 from each group stage will move on to the round of 16, and the 3rd and 4th place teams will unfortunately go home. And with that being said, let's kind of give into kind of like our predictions. Let's first start off with Group A. In Group A, we have the host country, Qatar, which for those of you guys who do not know, in any World Cup, any host country gets an automatic qualifying bid into the World Cup. Last time the World Cup was played was 2018. It was in Russia. That means Russia got the guaranteed bid into the World Cup. Same in 2014. 2014 was hosted in Brazil. Brazil got the guaranteed host. This year, as you guys all know, it is in the Middle East country of Qatar. The first time ever in history that the World Cup has ever been hosted in the Middle East. So that means Qatar will be a host country. They will be in Group A, followed by the country of Ecuador, Senegal, and the Netherlands. I want to throw this out to you, Callum. Who do you think will be in Group A, the top two teams, and why?
Really, there's a clear top one, which is the Netherlands. Really, I'd be stunned if anything other than the Netherlands winning this group is what happened. They have a significant football pedigree and a significant football history. They've won the World Cup before. They are, a very supremely talented, footballing country, shall we say. So I'm expecting the Netherlands to quite comfortably win this group. And then really it's a bit of a scrap between the other three teams. Qatar on paper are probably the weakest of the three other teams in the group, next to Ecuador and Senegal. But as has often happened in the World Cup, sometimes you do get host countries who overperform on, having the home field advantage, having the support of the nation. It's not unheard of for a home team, to perform better than expected. So we'll have to see with Qatar whether that continues or not. It did with Russia in 2018. They managed to get to the round and even beat Spain on penalties, qualifying for the quarterfinals. So there is definitely a debate about whether or not, Qatar will live up to their minnow reputation or if they'll be able to do a little bit better than expected. Beyond that, I personally think Senegal are the pick here to finish second in the group. Sadio Mane is at least, I think, probably going to miss at least one game, maybe two, following picking up an injury for Bayern Munich, and he's very much their talisman. But they're a team that has had success winning the African Cup of Nations. Edouard Mendy, Chelsea goalkeeper, in goal. They have a lot of talent throughout that team. Ecuador can be scrappy and dangerous at times, but I think Senegal have too much overall, and I expect the Netherlands to win the group with Senegal in second.
Yeah, I 1,000% agree with you as well. I think it's going to be Netherlands and Senegal. I think the Netherlands, they like you mentioned, they have a boatload of talent. Especially, I think with the guy from Liverpool, like you saw Virgil still playing for the Netherlands. Yeah. I think it's going to be incredible to see. One thing I will say, though, is I am definitely going to be intrigued seeing Qatar play on November 20th, being the first game, just to kind of see what they have. Because like you mentioned, Kyle, you made a great point. Some host countries, you never know how far they can get. I mean, Russia had their Cinderella run in 2018 going all the way to the quarter. Did they make it to the semis too, or did they make it just the quarters?
Yeah, they made it to the quarterfinals. They lost to Croatia, who eventually made it to the final. They lost on penalties to Croatia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even then, they pushed Croatia all the way to penalties, which was something we never really thought a Russia team could really do. So I mean, who knows? Maybe Qatar could match that Cinderella run, but it's going to be very hard to do, in that Group A. So, like you mentioned, I think it's going to be Netherlands and Senegal. I will say, I think it'll be interesting to see how many games Sadio Mane will miss. Whether it is the 1 to 2 games. That I think if it's 1 to 2 games, I think Senegal will still be in it. But if it's potentially more, if it's maybe 3 or 4, that's when I think the concern is going to go down. But I think with Mane still being there, I mean, a lot of people forget Mane is still going to be there. He could easily be a strategic player, kind of like a second coach as well. Kind of telling players hey, listen, watch out for these formations here. If you see something, go for it. So it's definitely going to be exciting there. But with that being said, since Kyle and I both agree that it's going to be Netherlands and Senegal for the 1 and 2, let's move on to Group B. And this Group B is going to be quite an interesting group. You got England, Iran, the United States, and you got Wales getting into that group as well. A lot of history in that group. With that being said, let's go with our top 2 predictions. I'll start off first by saying I personally think in this group, I think it's going to be England and the United States. I think England is the clear-cut favorite to win this group. I think England has the most talent in this group. Kyle can definitely get into more details on the England side of things, but I just think England overall, there should be no reason why England should finish lower than first in this group. If England doesn't win this group, then I definitely think there will be some cause of concern, for England going forward. But I just think England is going to be number 1. They're the clear top tier favorite, overall in this group. Almost reminds me of Netherlands in Group A. They're kind of like that team where it's we know what England's going to do. England, if you even look at it when they were a team, They made it all the way to the Euro Cup finals. Unfortunately, they fell short to Italy in penalties, but you also have to think they made it to the finals in the Euro group stages. Who's to say that they shouldn't be able to win Group B? And then I also think the United States will be second, just because I have confidence in their matchup on the 21st against Wales. I think whoever wins this matchup between the United States and the Wales on November 21st, I think has a really good chance to be second place. That's going to be the game right there, to where you could easily find out who will be in second. Obviously, with Wales, it's going to be Gareth Bale. Obviously, you saw Gareth Bale for LAFC make the game tying goal in the MLS final against the Philadelphia Union, and past the 100th minute mark, tied it at 2, and then eventually LAFC won in penalty kicks. I know the old meme with Gareth Bale, and he spends more time on the bench, and you see him golfing more, but when he's in the soccer match, he's going to make clutch plays. You saw that when he was with LAFC. He was barely in the match. He gets subbed in extra time. What does he do? He makes a clutch play to tie the final, and then eventually LAFC wins the final. So Wales is going to be a tough competition, but I think the United States find a way to sneak in and get that second place and move on to the round of 16. I want to hear what you got, Callum. Who do you believe will be the top 2 teams in Group B?
Yeah, to be honest with you, Matt, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think everything you said is spot on, really. I think one thing I would say is you referenced how this group is quite similar to Group A with the Netherlands. I think in actuality, 7 of the groups, I would say, have a clear-cut favourite. We'll get to one group later on where I think it's a bit of a toss-up between 2 teams, but I do think there are 7 groups which have a fairly clear-cut favourite in this tournament. England is that team in Group B for sure. And you're right, I do think it'll come down to that USA against Wales game, because for those 2 teams, you almost start with a knockout game, right? You can potentially find a way to draw that game and still get through, and then it basically becomes a shootout between USA and Wales in terms of who can lose to England by the least and who can beat Iran by the most. But yeah, it's the politically charged Group B between England, the US, Wales, and Iran. It'll be an interesting situation generally. But yeah, I expect England to win the group quite comfortably. I do think the USA will have too much for Wales with their young, talented midfielders. So I think the US will finish second in that group. I think Wales will be third, and I think Iran will be fourth.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you as well. I think it's going to be England, USA, Wales, and then Iran's going to be fourth. Let's move on to Group C. In Group C, we got Argentina with obviously the main superstar, Lionel Messi, which could potentially be in his final World Cup. I hope it's not his final World Cup, because I would love to see him in 2026 when it comes to North America. But who knows what will happen there. You then got Saudi Arabia, you got Mexico, and you have Poland as well for Group C. I want to go back to you, Callum. Who do you believe will be the top 2 teams in Group C, and why?
Yeah, so I'll be a clear-cut favourite in this one. Like we said, Messi is everything that people say about him and more. But don't sleep on the rest of Argentina. They have a really good squad, a really talented team. Lautaro Martinez, who'll play up front, and Lisandro Martinez, who'll play at the back, are both very good players. And I expect Argentina to make a run deep into this tournament. I don't know if they necessarily have enough to win. We'll see how well they bond around Messi. But with Emiliano Martinez in goal, they've got a core of Martinez players who are, very talented. Saudi Arabia will probably be the whipping boys of the group. I think they will probably lose to everyone and take a hammering. Poland are a talented team, revolve around Robert Lewandowski, Barcelona striker, who's kind of their main man. But I do think Mexico will finish second here. I do think the Mexicans always show up in the World Cup. They always turn up. They've got some good talented attacking players. Raul Jimenez is playing in a friendly today, coming back from injury. The Wolves striker and Mexico's talisman base. So, yeah, I do fancy Mexico to find a way to finish above Poland. And I say Argentina 1, Mexico 2.
It's funny that we all agree on a lot of things. I got the same 1-2 punch as well. I think it's going to be Argentina and Mexico. I just think with Poland, I mean, it's one of those things to where it's basically Robert Lewandowski and then everybody else. I feel like whenever they play against each other, I think it's going to be if Poland wants to find a way to finish second, it's going to have to be a complete team effort. Like, it can't just be like pray for Robert Lewandowski and then that's kind of it. Like, they're going to have to do more. And obviously, they're going to need Robert Lewandowski to do his thing, be the dominant force that he is with Barcelona. But there's going to need to be a lot more. You're going to need to have more on the defense. You're going to need the goalie to have fantastic games. And it's going to be interesting to see what will happen. I think the one game that's definitely going to be intriguing to watch, in this group is definitely going to be when Argentina plays Mexico, November 26th. I think that'll be an interesting game to watch because that could potentially decide who's going to be first and who's going to be second in that group. And, that could easily be a game to where Mexico's going to either play it close. It's either going to be like a draw, whether it's 0-0 or 1-1, or I think Argentina is going to blow them out like 2-0 or 3-0. Like it could easily be like either one of those games. But, we've seen Mexico pull off upsets in the past. Remember, in 2018, Mexico beat the defending champs, Germany at the time, 1-0, and they found a way to like shock the world in that matchup. So anything can happen there. But I do believe in Group C, it is definitely going to be Argentina and Mexico 1 and 2, followed by Poland at 3, and then Saudi Arabia at 4. And Callum, I think that's a good point that you made. Saudi Arabia as kind of like the whipping boy, because it kind of is. Because you think of like Saudi Arabia, if you look at the other 3 groups, you're not really scared of Saudi Arabia. You just kind of like, all right, they're probably just like in that group stage. It'll probably be like an easy, 2-3 points. But I will say, if like an Argentina or Mexico draws to Saudi Arabia, that could be a yikes moment. And if Poland can capitalize on that opportunity, they could potentially sneak in. But I don't think that'll happen. I think it'll be Argentina 1, Mexico 2. Let's move on to Group D here. In Group D, we got France, Australia, Denmark, and Tunisia. I think this is a no-brainer. I'll start off first by saying I think it's going to be France and Denmark at 1 and 2. And then Australia is probably going to be 3, and then Tunisia is 4. I think this is probably, in my honest opinion, the easiest group to determine your 1 and 2. I mean, you got France; they're the defending World Cup champs. I know there's a World Cup champion curse to where the winner of the previous World Cup fails to make it out of the group stage. I believe it has happened since 2010. Because when Italy won in 2006, they failed to make it the group stage in 2010. When Spain won in 2010, they failed to make the group stage in 2014. And then obviously in the previous World Cup, when Germany won it all, they did not make it past the group stage in 2018. With this group that France has, there's no way they finish lower than first or second. If France finishes somehow worse than second in this group, then I'm going to believe that the curse is real. Because there's no way, with how legitimate France is, even with some of the injuries that they have, you still have Benzema, you still have Mbappe at the helm. France is still, in my honest opinion, one of the best teams in the world. I just think there's no way France doesn't finish any lower than second. If they finish second, I'll be shocked. I think they're the clear-cut favorites to win the group. Maybe some people even say they could potentially repeat. I don't think that'll happen. I mean, it's been a long time since we've seen a team repeat as a World Cup champion. But I do think France will be in first in that group, followed by Denmark in second, because I think Denmark is just the second best team. They're the clear-cut second favorite. I mean, we're not really looking at Australia or Tunisia as like a competitive team that can compete for that second place. It's not like in Group C to where you could look at Poland and say, hey, that could be a sleeper team. When you look at Australia or Tunisia, they're not really those sleeper teams. They're like, okay, like you can battle for third and fourth, but we already know it's going to be either France and Denmark. Like whenever Group D plays and it's France and Denmark, a lot of people are going to be tuning into that game because that's the game right there that will determine, in my honest opinion, who will be first and second. But I think other than that, I'll be intrigued to see what you have to say, Callum, but I think it's a no-brainer that France and Denmark are going to be the 1 and 2 when it gets to Group D.
Yeah, I agree as well. I mean, there's something about Australia that they can always find Australia can always show up a win. And, we sit here and we say that these groups are fairly straightforward, and they definitely appear to be that way. But there'll be one game that there's an upset. There'll be a tie that shouldn't be a tie. These things do happen. What I would say is I think the most likely, I will actually say that I do think Denmark are a little bit underrated. And if you were looking for a group to maybe predict, I think this could be one where you see Denmark maybe find a way to draw with France and win the group overall. This is one where there could be a bit of an upset. But I still definitely expect France to qualify and go through 100%.
Absolutely, 1,000%. France is definitely, because I honestly believe if you look at France, a lot of people have like France as a potential team to where they could potentially win it all again. Like they have the capabilities to potentially repeat. It'll just be a situation to where like can they actually like get it done, or will it be a different team. But with that being said, let's move on to, in my honest opinion, the most intriguing group of them all. It's going to be Group E. And in Group E, you got Spain, Costa Rica, Germany, and Japan. I'll start off with you, Callum. You said earlier 7 out of the 8 groups have a clear-cut favorite. Was this the group that does not have a clear-cut favorite? And if so, why does it not have a clear-cut favorite?
Yeah, this is a group that has a clear top 2 and a clear bottom 2, more clear than anywhere else. And Costa Rica had a miraculous run in the 2014 World Cup and made it to the quarterfinals. This is not the same team as then. Japan are a team who have been difficult for some teams in the past. They have a lot of talent. There's a couple of youngsters on that Japanese team who are really special footballers. But Germany and Spain are the clear front 2 here. And then really it comes down to whether even Spain's youthful core or Germany's kind of a little bit more experienced team. In terms of what you think is going to happen in this group. I probably side with Germany to win the group and Spain to come second. But if you told me you saw it the other way around, I wouldn't be upset at all. I do think anything other than Spain and Germany qualifying will be very surprising.
Absolutely, 1,000%. It's definitely going to be interesting to see, like in the top 2. I think the top 2 is going to be Germany and Spain. Germany being 1, Spain being 2. But I will say Japan is definitely one of those teams to where I wouldn't sleep on Japan. Japan is definitely one of those teams to where they could definitely play spoiler. Like I could imagine Japan being a team to where, maybe they're already eliminated. They're not going to make it to the round of 16. But if they're playing a team like Spain, who could potentially be in first, I could imagine Japan being that team to where they draw with Spain, where they beat Spain, and instead of Spain winning the group, they're now in second. And then, instead of being a clear-cut favorite, now they're going to be number 2 instead. But I think Group B is definitely intriguing. But I think it's going to be one of those situations to where, Germany will most likely be one, especially when you think of Germany. Germany was embarrassed, in the previous World Cup, 2018. They didn't even make it past the group stage. You look at those veterans, like when you have like Manuel Neuer or Thomas Mueller, like they're definitely getting up there in age, and they definitely want to go. They definitely want to have another deep run, like they had in 2014 when they won the World Cup. They want to, because they personally believe as well, they could potentially be a team that can make that deep run. Like I'm honestly, I want to be surprised if Germany made a deep run, potentially all the way to the semis. Like they potentially have that kind of team to where they could make a deep run, because if we're being honest here, in any certain soccer game, if you have a superstar goalie, you could go far anywhere in soccer. It almost kind of reminds me, this may be a funny comparison, but it almost reminds me of like, NHL hockey. In hockey, if you have a good goaltender, you could go on a deep run. Look at the Dallas Stars. They pushed the Flames to 7 games, and we had no offense, but we had a star-studded goaltender in Jake Ottinger, and he did everything he could to force 7 games. And Germany has that potential. Obviously they have superstars, superstar forwards and stuff, but they also have a superstar goaltender in Manuel Neuer, who definitely wants to prove something, because I know in 2018, it was not his best stuff. It was not his best work. And I know for sure he's going into this World Cup definitely with that chip on his shoulder saying, like, I still got some more left in the tank. I want to take the Germany team on a run. And I think Germany is going to be one of those teams to where they could go on a deep run, and they're definitely going to be winning Group E. With that being said, let's move on to Group F. And this Group F, I mean, this could potentially be what some people may say as the group of death. I mean, especially for Morocco. Rest in peace for Morocco, because, I mean, they're going to have no shot in this group. But in Group F, you have Belgium, Canada, Morocco, and Croatia. I'll start off first by saying I believe the top two in this group, it's going to be tough, but I think it's going to be Belgium, and I think I'm going to go with the upset route. I'm going to go with Canada as a second place. I believe Canada could potentially be that second place team. I think with Alphonso Davies, whether he's injured or healthy, I think Canada's going to find a way. I don't know how they will, but I just think they're going to find a way to do it. And I think coming in a close third is going to be Croatia. I think Croatia, they had their deep run. They had their deep run last World Cup when they made it all the way to the final. I don't know how they're going to come back from it. I mean, Luka Modric, he's 4 years older, than he was previously. And with Croatia, it's kind of one of those situations to where, like, we don't know. Like, we don't know what they have. Obviously, we know that Luka Modric is going to do his thing. He's going to do everything he can for Croatia. But then other than that, it's kind of like, what else? It's almost the same situation with Robert Lewandowski in Poland. It's kind of like, what else are you going to get with Croatia? But I think the top two for me, I think it's going to be Belgium and Canada. I want to hear what you have to say, Colin. I want to hear if you have anything different or if it's going to be similar.
Yeah, I think Canada might struggle without Alphonso Davies. I do. I'd love Canada. They were a great story in North American qualifying last time round. I'm glad they're up. I think they'll bring a nice new flavor to it. But I do see Belgium winning this group, and I do think Croatia will find a way to finish second. I think they've got the experience. They are a little bit older. That's a fair point. But I do think Croatia, with the talent they've got, Perisic, Rakitic, Mandzukic, if he's still in the squad, the talent that Croatia has, and for a while, I just think Croatia will have slightly too much for Canada. I think Canada finished third, and I do think Morocco finished bottom of this group. Belgium are a team who have enough talent to win the World Cup. I don't necessarily think they will, but don't be surprised if Belgium make a deeper run than you think, because they are a very talented group of players.
Absolutely. Belgium definitely is one of those teams to where they do have the talent, but it's all about, can they get it done? And hopefully they're placed in a good spot, because in my opinion, if I'm Belgium, it would be a shame to where if they make it to the round of 16, they make it past the group stage, and then you got to match up with France. Like, that would be a tough draw for them if they make it past the group stage to face that tough of a team. But with that being said, let's move on to Group G. And in Group G, I mean, this one right here, we obviously know who the clear-cut favorite in this group is going to be. But let's list off the 4 teams that are in the group. In the group, you have Brazil, you have Serbia, Switzerland, and Cameroon. I want to hear what you have to say, Callum. Who do you believe will be the top 2 teams in this group? Why is Brazil 1, and who do you have at number 2?
Brazil's number 1 just because the talent and the pedigree to be there, to be completely honest with you. They deserve that. They've 100% been, one of the greatest football nations ever, really. They've won the World Cup more times than anybody else. I think Serbia here for second place for me. They've got a lot of tough players who play at high in Europe. Milinkovic-Savic is one of their central midfielders who plays in Italy for Lazio. Alexander Mitrovic, who plays in the Premier League up front for Fulham. Switzerland and Cameroon have talented players too, but I'm not as convinced by the Swiss team this time round. I just think Serbia have a little bit more nastiness, a little bit more grit and determination. So yeah, I would put Serbia second. I think Cameroon just miss out in third, and I put Switzerland bottom of this group. Obviously, Brazil, 100% one of the favourites for this whole tournament. They have a lot of young, talented players, a number of whom play in the Premier League now. And yeah, I think Brazil win this group. I think second, and That's how I see it.
Interesting. I got Brazil in first, and this may be a hot take for some, but I think Switzerland is going to surprise some people again in second. I don't know what it is with the Swiss. I think Switzerland is going to be one of those teams to where not a lot of people think that they're going to make it past the group stage, and then they're going to shock some people and make it past the group stage. The Switzerland kind of almost reminds me of like what Russia did in 2018. Nobody expected Russia to make it past the group stage, let alone go all the way to the quarterfinals. Do I think Switzerland will go to the quarterfinals? No. But I do believe Switzerland is one of those teams to where, like, hey, don't sleep on Switzerland, because Switzerland could definitely be that team to where hey, if they find a way to beat Serbia, that could easily decide, who that second place is going to be. Because obviously we all know, even for people that don't watch soccer that much, people are going to know that, Brazil is most likely going to win the group. I mean, when Brazil is highlighted with the superstar players, especially with the likes of Neymar, they're going to make it past this group. If you look at it, and then the rest of it is kind of going to be a dogfight. Serbia, Switzerland, Cameroon, they're all going to battle it out, because we know Brazil is going to be number one. And if you think about it, I think if they did like the soccer rankings, they have Brazil ranked as the best team in the world. So, I mean, Brazil has a big target on their back, because it's almost kind of like when are they going to get, when are they going to add another World Cup? They're the most winningest World Cup, country of all time, but they haven't won, what is it, since 2002 was Brazil's last World Cup title?
Yes.
So it's been 20 years for Brazil. And obviously, when you look at, the last time they had a deep run was in 2014. They made it to the semis in their own host country. But remember, they got absolutely embarrassed, 7-1 by Germany. And then they got embarrassed again in the third place game. So it's kind of almost like for Brazil, like the time is ticking. I mean, especially when you got Neymar, who's getting up there in age, the clock is ticking on whether he'll be able to bring this team to a World Cup. We saw him win a gold medal in 2016 in the Rio Olympics, but that World Cup is, in my honest opinion, the most prestigious award in the world. Like, if you look at, if you're a soccer player, you want to do multiple things. You want to win a Champions League. If you're a part of a soccer club that's in the Champions League, and you also want to win for your host country, whether it's Lionel Messi finally winning something for Argentina in the Copa America, or whether it's Kylian Mbappe finally winning, the World Cup for France, or whether it's Cristiano Ronaldo winning the Euro 2016 for Portugal. Like, when players play for their host country, in my honest opinion, I think it means more. Like, it means everything to them. If you win for your host country, in my honest opinion, I think it means everything in the world. It doesn't matter if you have like many titles from multiple soccer clubs. If you win a World Cup for your country, you'll be a hero. Anywhere you walk in Brazil or any certain country that you host for and you win, you're going to be claimed a hero. Neymar in Brazil have to find a way to get it done, because if you look at it's almost kind of like, obviously they're going to accumulate a lot of star talent because it's Brazil, but it's almost like when are you finally going to get it done? Like, you almost look at Brazil and just think, like, was 2014 really that their shot? Like, was that their shot and they missed it? Because it's one of those situations where you never know. But I think for Brazil in this World Cup, they'll obviously win their group. But when it gets to the round of 16, when it's only one game, can they get it done? Can they get it done for this one game, or will they fall short? That'll be, time will tell for that situation. But with that being said, let's move on to the final group of this World Cup, Group H. We have Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, and Korea Republic, which is South Korea. With that being said, I'll start off first by saying I believe the top two in this group is going to be Portugal and Uruguay. I think Ghana will be a close third place, followed by South Korea. But I just think Portugal is the clear-cut favorite. I mean, you have Cristiano Ronaldo leading the way. I think he's going to find a way to get things done for Portugal. I too believe the same situation with Neymar for Brazil and Lionel Messi for Argentina. When you have a superstar of his status, your goal is to bring a World Cup to your country. And when you're with like Cristiano Ronaldo, this is what his fifth World Cup with Portugal. I mean, the clock is ticking for Ronaldo. Like this could very well also potentially be his last World Cup. We don't want it to be. I mean, we want him to play forever. But I mean, you never know. You know, when the World Cup happens every 4 years, it's going to be very hard to see if by 2026, if Ronaldo will still be playing. So, I mean, for Portugal, this could be a situation to where this could be a final ride, like for Ronaldo or whatever stars are on Portugal. And then for Uruguay, I think they're going to be in second. And I think it's going to be for one reason only. I think it's going to be Luis Suarez. I think he's going to find a way to will Uruguay to second. And then I just think with the other countries, I just don't think they have enough. I think the reason being is I think Portugal is going to be a team on a mission, on a freight train. If they have to play a team like Ghana or Korea, I think they're going to blow them out, whether it's 2-0 or 3-0. I think they're just going to find a way to pull through and get it done. Then I think Uruguay is going to find a way to take care of business and then ultimately find a way to get second place. I want to hear what you have to say, Colin. Do you believe that Portugal and Uruguay are the 1 and 2 teams, or do you have a different 1 and 2?
Yeah, Portugal and Uruguay are for sure the top two for me. I think that's two. Ghana and South Korea, the Korea Republic, have had good teams in the past, and I think the big question for the Korea team is the health of Son Heung, who plays for Tottenham in the Premier League. He got an injury in the Champions League a couple of weeks ago, an injury to his face, and no one's quite sure if he's fully able to play or if he's going to have to wear a protective mask or something. Without him, Korea will really struggle. Ghana, this is not the Ghanaian team of 10 years ago, really one of football's big African powers. I'm not certain that they are really going to be able to push Portugal and Uruguay. I think Portugal have everything you need to make a run deep in this tournament. I really like Portugal as a dark horse to win this thing. I know there's plenty of people out there who don't love Cristiano Ronaldo and don't want to be successful. I'm kind of in that camp myself right now, but I do think that Portugal, with all they have around him, your Bruno Fernandes, your Bernardo Silva, your João Cancelo, your Ruben Diaz, there's Diogo Jota, there's plenty of people I'm forgetting, Jose Sarr in goal. I really think this Portugal team has everything you need. I think Uruguay have some talent. Darwin Nunez of Liverpool is one who's obviously looking to make a name on the big stage. But I think Portugal win this group. I think Uruguay second, and I fancy Portugal to make some noise throughout the tournament.
We definitely like the sound of that. With that being said, those are our predictions in each group. Those are our top two. When we get to the round of 16, the top two will be decided. It goes from November 20th all the way to December 2nd. When it gets to December 3rd, that will be when everything is all set and done. With that being said, let's move on to, let me look and find the schedules for each of the game. I kind of want to see kind of what your take is, Callum, on the group stage games. Which one are you most intrigued with? So here is the one and only game on the 20th. You have Qatar versus Ecuador starting at it looks to be 10 o'clock. All of these times on here are Central Time. So when you look at it, 10 o'clock Central Time, you have the host country of Qatar playing against Ecuador. Is there any sort of intrigue with this matchup?
Yeah, well, definitely. Just because it's the first game of the tournament, it's always nice to see the pageantry, the celebration, the excitement for the first game. I will be really intrigued to see what the Qatari fans are like. Are they loud? Are they quiet? Do they care? It'll be interesting to see. Excuse me. Excuse me. I do think that there's a decent chance that Ecuador will win this game. I just don't think Qatar have that much quality in their team. But the first game of the World Cup is always a special moment regardless. So, yeah, that will definitely be intriguing. And then day 2 is really quite big with England's first game, the USA's first game, and Senegal against the Netherlands. Should be a really good game, though. Obviously, as we mentioned, the loss of Sadio Mane for Senegal is a shame. But really, the US against Wales is probably the one that I'm looking forward to the most immediately, because I do think it'll be a competitive game. And like I said, it does feel like there's almost a knockout element to it immediately, basically.
Absolutely, 1,000%. I agree with you. First match, Qatar, Ecuador. I think it's kind of one of those to where we want to see like the lights, camera, action. We want to see, because I remember the opening game with Russia, they annihilated. It was like the first game they played, they won like 5-0. Like it was a domination. They woke up and that Russia crowd was loud and electric. I want to see what Qatar has up in store. And then for day 2, I think you're correct in saying that United States, Wales, that's going to be the game to watch. England, Iran, it'll be interesting. But from there, we'll see what happens there. And then kind of like, and then if you were to look at the other matchups, in my honest opinion, I think the one game that everybody should tune into, especially for you and I, this United States versus England game, man, oh man, it's gonna be a big one. It's gonna be very important. And I do want to let you know, Callum, if the United States pull off the greatest upset, it will be soccer. There will be no more football. We will call it soccer. And you will see a whole lot of memes. Now, I want to hear what you have to say, Callum. Do you think the upset will happen, or do you think England is just going to put the beat down on us?
No, I don't necessarily think it'll be a beatdown. I do expect to win. But the World Cup, funny things happen. 2010, when England played the US, it was a 1-1 draw. The famous headline in, I think, the New York Post was USA wins 1-1, which is funny, to be fair to them. I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be a spectacle. I mean, obviously, all these games are standalone in the first 2 rounds of the group stage. So there's always one game on at a time. You can focus on it. I do think the US has a chance, but I do expect England to win that game. And assuming that the US has beaten Wales in their first game, then that shouldn't be a problem. And we should say that we're probably going to do our next Unwrapped Sports World Cup show that afternoon after the US-England game. Probably a little bit of time after the game, so that we've allowed ourselves some time to cool down. But then, we'll probably do another show on Monday to celebrate that game, basically.
Oh, 1,000%. Another game that I will say that I am definitely tuning into is definitely going to be Argentina versus Mexico. I think this could easily be a game to where that'll decide first and second. And I think it'll be interesting to see. Like, I kind of want to see like what kind of fight that Mexico has.
Yeah, those are 2 teams that are talented on paper. It's definitely one that could be interesting for sure.
Mm-hmm. And then I will say out of like the rest of these days, I will say the last matchup that I think is going to be the most intriguing one out of all of this, I think it's going to be on November 27th when it's Spain versus Germany.
Yeah,
I think that matchup right there is going to be very intriguing for me, anyways. I think when I look at the rest of the games on the group stages from here till December 2nd, that Spain-Germany game, I think that's going to be very intriguing because I think that'll determine, in my honest opinion, which team can make a deep run. Because if Spain pulls off the upset and wins, and they finish first in the group, that could potentially set them up for a deeper run compared to Germany. Now, I know earlier I said Germany could be that team to make a deep run to the semis, but that's because I haven't won the group. If they don't win the group, it'll be interesting to see where they will be placed. And, when it gets to the round of 16 stage come December 3rd.
Yeah, I do think winning the group is, very important in this tournament, probably more so than then, just with the apparent clear disparity between, the top 1 and the rest of the squads in most of these groups. But yeah, I think Spain against Germany is probably the pick of the group stage for most people. Like if you ask most people to kind of say, what game forward to, I think Spain against Germany is probably the biggest one. But yeah, all in all, I just think it's a really exciting time to be heading into a World Cup. It's always exciting, and it should be a great tournament.
It absolutely should be an exciting tournament. We got 4 more days till the World Cup, and I cannot wait to see what will go down, especially when you look at the timing of this. It's right in the middle of playoff football season, week 11, right in the middle of college football as well with the CFP. Then you got basketball starting, hockey starting. It is right in the middle of it, and I cannot wait to see what will happen there. With that being said, that will conclude this stream of the Unwrapped FIFA World Cup, our thoughts and analysis of it. And one more time, Callum, before we head out, where can all the people find all of the great things that you do?
I appreciate it, Matt. Thanks. It's been great. Yeah, at Callum JD Squires, Twitter and Instagram. That's where all my stuff will be, all the feed. And hope to be chatting more with you and a lot of other people.
Absolutely. And then for me, my Twitter handle is down below at Matt_Skura. Make sure you check that out. Check out my Instagram as well, Matt_Skura21. And both of those links in the bios, it'll give you access to my sports podcast that me and my great friend Caleb Conant do called MCS Real Sports Podcast. We talk all things NBA and NFL related. You name it, it's available everywhere. Spotify, Anchor, iHeartRadio, you name it. It is available everywhere. And as always, it is a pleasure to be talking about the FIFA World Cup as the countdown is 4 days away. And obviously, it is going to be exciting that both the United States and England are in the same exact group, and they will be facing off against one another on Friday, November 25th. This is Matt Skura. I am a great co-host to my right, Caleb Conant. Callum, that was bad. That was terrible. But with that being said, that will conclude this edition of the Unwrapped FIFA World Cup 2022 analysis, the pregame before the actual game. We will be signing off on this Tuesday.